What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. As always, it is appreciated. And today's video is going to mainly be for my Q50 people, but it is also for anybody that has bought a cheap lip or their car has a cheap front lip option and you want to improve it because you're breaking them, or you just want to make sure that you don't break it at all. If you're curious about what front lip I'm talking about for the Q50, I'm talking about this one. Now, before I get into it further, let me just say, yes, I know there are better lip options for the Q50 and just cars in general. I am fully aware that I can spend $200 to $500 for a really nice lip for the Q50, as well as the fact that me working on my cheap front lip and putting money into making it better almost defeats the point of buying a cheap lip. But a couple things. One, I don't want an expensive lip for the fact that I really don't feel like dropping that much money on a lip for my daily. Two, I don't want to keep the bumper that I have on the Q50 forever. Once I get the Red Sport bumper, then sure, I might consider a nicer front lip. And lastly, yeah, I'm putting a little bit of money to make this front lip better. However, I'm still spending less than $100 to do it. So still much freaking cheaper than a $300 to $500 front lip. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I am going to make this front lip a little better. That way it doesn't just get destroyed instantly and I have to buy another one next week. Okay, so first things first, I'm taking these little side pieces and putting them in the holes where they're supposed to go. If you haven't seen it before, it just shows like that, and you just put these on top. Okay, once the pieces are put on and the screws are in, this is where we actually start modifying it a little bit to make it more sturdy. Now, the great thing about the method that I'm going to be showing you today is you can pick and choose which of these items you want to do to the front lip depending on how much extra money you want to spend. You can do all of them to make it extra secure, or you can just take one option out or put another one in, so it's all dependent on you and what you want to do in the end. Okay, first item we're going to be using today is some silicone. Okay, now for this part, you do not need a lot at all. Honestly, all I'm going to do, just put a small bead. Honestly, I probably put more than I needed. Just going to rub my finger through it, just to smooth it out. And then I'll clean up the excess here in a second. Basically, just put a relatively small amount. Do the same with both sides, and then let it dry. Okay, so about 30 minutes has passed. For the most part, the silicone is dry. It's not coming up, still could use a little bit more time, but it's dry enough for us to go ahead and move on to the next part. Now, as I said before, you can pick and choose which of these items you want to use, and as far as like putting money into the front lip to make it better, this is going to be your most costly thing if you choose to do it. So this little guy is a plastic welder, and these are some of the plastic things that you can use, or you can also use these sticks. I think I only paid like $20 for this at Harbor Freight. I'm not fully sure, but it wasn't too expensive. So this guy's been plugged in for a bit. It's nice and warm, so I'm going to use this to put some extra plastic back here and basically just make that stronger. Because this is the centerpiece, it's the part that hangs the lowest. It is the part that gets hit and broken most of the time, as well as some other stuff I'll touch on later. But the problem is finding the perfect thing to strengthen that with. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this guy, as it's kind of a little bit thicker, but basically you just put it up against. You take the welder and you just touch the plastic stick that you have up against whatever plastic item you're working with. Okay, not sure how well you can see, but all along the edge there is plastic that I have now welded, especially the center. There's definitely an extra layer there. Fully aware that that looks like crap right now, but it's okay. It really doesn't matter. And again, this does not have to be done the way that I'm doing it with plastic. You can use fiberglass if you want to try that method. If you want to use tiny little brackets and you have a way to weld like metal brackets to that area to support it, that works too. And really just anything that you can find just to put up against that lip to make it stronger. We are going to do some other things to make this as a whole stronger, including that area, but you still want that extra little protection right there in case, you know, something comes up in the road and you hit it, or you're coming off of a driveway or something. It's really good just to put that extra layer there. All right, so the next thing we're going to be using is spray foam. If you're used to my channel, then you know I've used this stuff plenty of times for a bunch of different things, but this with the front lip is a great combination. I'll show you why, of course. But what's also great about this, if you don't already know, spray foam is only about $5, so super cheap. And even if this is your only thing to do to your front lip, it will still be really helpful, I promise. And after you go through pretty much the entire can, this is what your front lip should look like. Don't worry about filling in these areas here that have the drill hole points. The biggest thing is just getting these areas behind the plastic lip and just making sure that's all filled in. And then basically you wait. So ideally, you want to wait a full day for this, but if you're just super impatient, try starting this process, earlier in the day. At least give it 3 hours, but I'll show you guys how to know when the spray foam is good. But you want to give it as much time as you can to make sure that it dries all the way, because if it's not dried all the way on the inside, it is a mess and it's not going to look right. But I'll show you guys here in a little bit on how to test to see if it is good or not. But in the meantime, I'm going to put the camera down for the day, and I will pick this back up when I know for sure this is dry. So I'll see you guys here in a sec. Alright, currently the next day, and the foam is officially dried. And here's what it's currently looking like. Now, just for reference, and so you guys know, if you leave it for a day, you will not need to test it. It is good. A day is more than enough time for this to dry. Anyways, after however long has passed and you're wanting to test it, just get a screwdriver or honestly anything solid and basically tap it. It's pretty simple. Just off of that, the noise and the stability of it, you'll be able to tell. And then another important thing is put your finger on spots and go ahead and push down. And if it stops or it feels pretty solid, you're good. Because if you push down and it takes a little bit of time to come back up, or it's obvious that there's some space in there, do not cut into it. Because the second you cut into it, it's going to be like marshmallows. It's going to stick to your blade. It's not going to be flat in the way that you want it to. So just make sure it's fully dry before you start cutting into it. Once dry though, it's actually really easy to cut. And then from here it's pretty easy, so all you want to do is take the blade and just cut it along the edge of the lip to make the shape. You're going to do the same back here. And then you're going to take the blade and flatten this here. And honestly, if you want it to go faster and you have one, use a Sawzall. Oh. Bear, what are you doing? Such a good bear. Anyways, when you are done shaving everything down, you are going to have a big mess of foam everywhere, so just be prepared for that. But basically, again, you want to cut away the inside pieces that you don't need. Make sure that you cut out the little triangle pieces as well, if you have those. Then just, again, go along the line. Flatten it out as much as you can, and it does not have to be perfect. Obviously, this isn't the prettiest thing to look at right now, but again, it's not going to matter for a couple reasons. Number one, it's there to add stability and protect your front lip, so it doesn't necessarily need to look pretty as long as it does its job. Number two, you can't see it anyways. At least, my car's on bag, so it's pretty low, but even when I have the car raised up, I feel like you can't see the foam under it. But if you want to, you can always spray paint the foam underneath it black as well, just to kind of camouflage a little more, so that's another option you can do. But again, the important thing with the foam is you want to make sure that one, it's from edge to edge, so that this is not only adding more stability, but it is also adding extra support for the plastic that you already put in there. On top of that, when you are going down something or there's something in the road, this foam actually takes quite a bit of the impact, especially if you're coming out of a driveway and your front lip rubs up against the ground. Now, for the most part, this is what's going to be getting hit and scraped instead of your front lip actually rubbing on the floor. So win-win for spray foam. Got the old front lip off. Now there's just a couple other small but important steps that we need to go through to make sure that this lip is on properly. First of which is make sure you have the proper hardware. So these are the screws that it comes with, and these are the screws I recommend using. The length isn't super important. What's really important is the thickness. As you can see, the ones I use are shorter, but it still grabs onto the lip and the front bumper, but it's thicker, so there's less chance of it just being ripped out. I also use 4 of these guys to help keep it up, and I'll show you where I put these. So for these guys, I use 2 on each end on the furthest hole. Then I drill a hole in the triangle pieces and put 2 more on each one. That mixed with the thicker screws throughout, I have yet to have one of these fall off, period. I think it was like the first or second front lip that I had like that it just completely came off before I started using these. Since then, none of the lips have actually fallen off, even when taking a hit. The issue more recently has been them just shattering when hitting something because they didn't have the support. So that's why we did all the previous steps. But this is just important because even if you do all the other stuff but you don't secure it properly to the bumper, it doesn't really matter because it's just going to end up coming off altogether anyways. So make sure you're using the proper hardware for this. Because I already have the holes mapped out where I need them on the triangle pieces, I'm just going to overlay this onto my new one, mark the holes, drill them out really quickly, and then from there we can go ahead and put on the new one. Also, if you don't have one, I highly recommend getting a screwdriver that's about this small because it's super helpful when you're doing stuff like the front lip or things like that where it's just difficult to get a full-size screwdriver or anything underneath it. So it definitely comes in handy. And lip is officially on, so I wanted to show you guys what it looks like before I aired it out, just so you can see that you really can't see the foam underneath it. As always, I'm completely transparent with you guys, so I do want to point out that there is a little bit of foam right there. However, I didn't take the sander to this. Spray foam is actually super easy to sand down, so you can sand that down, make it a lot smoother. I was just kind of, you know, trying to get this done, so there is a tiny bit that you can see, but for the most part, it's pretty good. And as you drive that and scrape it a little bit on driveways and stuff like that, that's gonna, you know, work itself out anyways. And I mean, as you drive it and you're going down driveways and stuff like that, that's going to scrape a little bit and end up sanding itself down anyway, so not a huge deal. And now, so you can see it in all of its glory, looks a lot better. One, because this one's not all beat up and it's nice and shiny. But 2, because I know that this is secure and I'm not going to have to worry about it as much. Now, as I said before, this may be a little contradictive of spending money to make a cheap front lip better, because then essentially it's not as cheap. And yes, you could buy one of these lips for like $200, $300, or even this lip that's actually decently nice for $120. But I like that lip just because it keeps the front of the lip centered. It doesn't go up in the center, so it is all relatively flat and low to the ground. And I only paid 40 bucks for that lip. So even after that, the $10 for the spray foam and some extra screws, you're still under $100, and you have a nice lip that you know isn't going to be taken off the second that you drive away. And again, you don't even have to do every one of the things that I mentioned. You can pick and choose on which of those you want to do to your lip to make it better. My recommendation is at least do the spray foam. It takes a while to dry, but it's definitely going to be the most effective when helping take some of the impact. And the thicker screws, because again, it will fall off, I promise you. If you use the screws that it comes with and the little bit of two-way tape that it comes with, it is not going to last. It's going to fly off at some point, so just buy yourself some better hardware. Glad she got a new front lip though, because it's always annoying staring at her and it's chipped or messed up, so it's nice knowing that she's got a new front lip again. So, of course, if you're not already, please hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Peace out.